What if we don't actually need a majority of the things that we think that we do? What if instead our minds are just on autopilot with a bunch of noise that just keeps recycling itself day after day and driving us into this direction of more, 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 more? I prefer to keep a majority of my life boundaried and private, the personal things that I go through, whatever it is that's happening in my life. I like to keep it boundaried, but there is something that I'm going through that I think is very fascinating, and I want to take the time to explore it because I think that it can also add a lot of value with its insight to other people as well. Something I would argue that this is more so an awakening in and of itself, an awakening based on things that I've been through and just life that I've experienced. And I think it's very fascinating because what I'm seeing is that the more I am present to the moment, the more that I am with myself, literally grounded and centered with this 3D physical reality, the nature of this reality. I look around me and I see everything that is in my immediate presence. And I also look at how I've lived life previously, and I recognize that I have invested time and energy mentally and emotionally into things that are not actually in my immediate presence. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just, especially in this day and age with AI, with deepfake, with Chat GPT, with a lot of misinformation on the internet, you don't really know what's actually true anymore. There are so many news articles that come out these days, and things could actually be artificial and fake, could be created by a bot or AI. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's actually not in the immediate presence. How do we actually know any of the stuff that we've believed? And so, paired with that, recognizing that sometimes I can have a tendency to be very much like future based, projecting a lot into the future, even hoping that the future will save me from the present moment, regardless of whatever it is the present moment is, even if the present moment is filled with boring shit, as my mind would like to label it. I'm starting to realize now that perhaps a lot of the things that I've been led to believe that I need in my life, or things that I have believed that I need myself, might actually just be noise. I read a book, well, more so the audiobook version of it, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, back in 2015, 2016, something like that. Shout out to anybody that has watched, watched, read. I don't know if there are any documentaries on Eckhart. Um, there might be. I know that there are videos, interviews, him talking about his life's experiences and everything. What I'm really trying to say is that now in my life, I am more so valuing um, the present moment, the nature of reality, the normality of my immediate presence, the generality of life, um, being present to the moment, not being so much worried about the future, not being so much tuned into whatever is out there, being here and congruent with the present moment, letting go of a lot of the things that I've previously believed that I need, and just being here, being really centered with the present moment, being present with the sensations of whatever is here and now, feeling myself in my body. Talk about one of the, what I would argue to be one of the most important things for any individual that was, um, you know, experienced trauma. I mean, everyone has experienced some level of trauma growing up, right? So the fascinating thing is like healing a dysregulated nervous system and the reality of being present to the moment as to heal the dysregulation. Not being anywhere out there, but just being right here and being congruent with this present time and space reality and all of the nature of it. Recognizing that we actually have the ability to freak ourselves the fuck out because we can. I've learned that the mind literally cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. You can work your entire system up and into overdrive and burn yourself the fuck out in any way, shape, or form. But you can also do the opposite and be present with yourself and breathe and regulate yourself and be much more congruent and grounded and centered with yourself. I just think that that's so fascinating. And so continuing to let go more and more in every moment of whatever is not here now. You know, we have learned to believe that we need to cultivate as many things as possible. And, you know, we're supposed to have anxiety for what we don't have. I'll pass. And just letting go and being present with everything that is here right now. It's so fascinating. The sensations, the touch, the feel. You know, let me say this real quick. Severe trauma can fuck somebody out of their body. That's pretty much what dissociation is. Somebody's childhood could have been so painful that they dissociated and they just stayed dissociated. So they never regrounded back into their body. They just stayed somewhere out there or somewhere out there or, you know, somewhere in here. Think about how caught up in the mind we can be. All the noise, all of the running banners and stuff. You need this, you need that, you should do this, you should do that. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Just over and over and over and over again being pounded with anxiety and all of this noise, all of these ideas, all of these directions. Imagine, and I understand this is probably easy for some people and it is sad, but imagine just being pulled in every different direction. Like, I remember there was many years ago in childhood, there was I think it was called Gumby. The name speaks for itself. Gumby, you could pull it in every different direction. Oftentimes, when people are not raised with healthy boundaries, a lot of different influences pull them in many different directions. So imagine that you were just fed all of these ideas growing up and you learned to be pulled in many different directions and you just got used to that. But letting go of all of that stuff, tying yourself to this moment, being here present with this moment, that's just out of this world. And I'm starting to see that. And I understand that not everyone feels that way about life. Not everybody wants to be present. They want to be future based. And I'm not saying stop with goals. I'm not saying stop with future endeavors. Not at all. You can have all the future endeavors you want in the world. What I am saying is that based on everything that I've experienced and what I've learned, and even this awakening that I'm going through right now, is being present to the moment and enjoying the process. There are things that I want that are not here right now that I've noticed I like sacrifice the present moment mentally, emotionally, physically, sensationally to wait for that thing to come. This is really a dissolving of waiting. It's not necessary to wait for anything. In my opinion, the healthiest thing that anybody could do is be present to the moment and just be congruent with this entire process. You know, and if you feel like you can't, if you feel like you can't enjoy this, I understand. You've been taught to believe that whatever is coming next is better than what's here. And I don't know. I am starting to think that it's just not the healthiest way to live, and what I would argue to be quite the unhealthiest way to live. You know, imagine, for instance, I'll end off with this because I think that this is very important. Say for instance you live 100 years. I think that's coming to be like the general lifespan for people, especially as we evolve technologically with medicine and all that stuff. Shout out to you if you could just hear my my stomach growling. So, say for instance, any given person lives 100 years. Imagine within that time frame of 100 years, that lifespan of 100 years, the way that you live life is you're just always waiting. You're waiting for the future. But then when you get to the future, you realize that it's not as delicious as you thought it would be. So then you wait for the next moment and the next moment and the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And then you're just very attached to, you're very tied to this dynamic of just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. You can do what you want to. I don't know why anybody would actually want to just live in a consistent state of waiting when you could be present to this moment. And your mind might have ideas for what this moment is that make you very resistant to it. I understand. But the question that I have for you is, do you really actually need a lot of the things that you've been led to believe that you do, that you've told yourself that you do? Not only that, are you also waiting for the future to save you from this moment? Are you just waiting? Are you waiting and waiting and waiting? I think I remember Eckhart Tolle talking about waiting in The Power of Now. And it was very fascinating because it made me realize, yeah, like we're just waiting. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. 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 And I mean, a practice that I have utilized is turning waiting into being, like being present in my body, being grounded, being centered. It can transform the entire dynamic. I like these awakenings because they help me to see what it is that I need, things that I might even be unconscious or unaware of. Being present to the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, not all material out there on the internet is fake, but not all of it is real. But I would argue that the healthiest thing that any person can do is be present, not be so focused on whatever is happening in the future, whatever is happening out there, whatever Bob and Charlie are doing, whatever Nancy and Mary are doing. Being present and being grounded and being with yourself. Not to put anything on a pedestal, but it's pretty fucking magical.